Hey everyone, welcome to Module 7, Lecture 1. We're in the interview phase, final stretch, home stretch of our course here. We're going to be talking about interview success principles and strategy, and also kind of a look inside the mind of a recruiter, aka someone like me, who also talks with other recruiters, and we talk about the things that mean the most to us and in the interview process. So let's get started. Success principle number 1, which should be obvious, but I need to state the obvious. You need to dress to impress. Here's this fun website I'm posting again, which is the kind of fun style inspiration hack about stalking what people wear at the company first. If you're able to get your hands on, go online, go to HollywoodReporter.com, go to Variety, look at the top lists of top Hollywood's like new leaders, and see what they're wearing. And these are very corporate environments, especially if we're first starting off trying to get in at the agencies. For men, it's suit, tie, dress shoes, the whole shebang. I put a link there for style inspiration. For women, it's a nice blouse. Please cover your shoulders. I don't like it when shoulders are uncovered. With a nice black skirt or a dress, I say black because you need to kind of be a little understated. You can't be wearing loud jewelry, colors, or patterns. Black dress is just really nice. Appropriate length, which is just above the knee. Typically, what they say is that if you put your hands straight down on the sides of your body, the length of your skirt or dress should be a little bit past, or like an inch or two past the tips of your fingers. But get your friends, get a friend or your family member to take a look and make sure it's an appropriate length. Or you can wear nice dress pants, that's fine too, and minimal jewelry. A blazer is also nice. I wore a blazer to my interview at ICM back in the day. So use these links, and you need to dress to impress. These are environments where your appearance really does matter, and again, you don't have to be a supermodel, but if you can take time into putting yourself together nicely. Women, if you want to get your nails done and your hair done, I did that. I made the investment because I wanted to feel like $1 million. Men, if you want to, get a profession. I don't know what men. I'm not as well versed in the men hygiene side of things, but if you want to, get a professional shave or whatever makes you feel great going into the interview. Please, if you're a man or a woman, do not wear very heavy perfume or cologne. That's a huge turnoff. Do not do that. All right, so let's keep going. Success principle number 2. You need to be going into the interview with a very generous and confident mindset of, I am the solution to their problem. It's not that you're I used to go into interviews thinking that these were kind of contests where you're competing against other people and the recruiter is this nameless, faceless person that you have to impress. That's not the right mentality. An interview is an opportunity for you to come in and show the recruiter that you are the solution to their problem. And we're looking inside the mind of the recruiter here. The recruiter, I can tell you from my experience, is somebody who has a problem. They have a problem and they need to find a solution. They have a really busy executive who's dying because they need to find a new assistant immediately because their current assistant is leaving in a week. Hiring process is super, super quick out here, as I've taught you. So they have an executive breathing down their neck. The recruiter is stressed out because the executive's pressuring them to find somebody very quickly. So they're actually hoping, every single person that walks through their door, they're hoping that you're the solution to their problem. It's not like they're thinking, oh, this person's going to be terrible. No, they are really, really hoping that you are the answer. So be the answer to their problem. And with that, recruiters are people. They're not nameless, faceless robots. That's what I used to think about when I used to interview. The best interviews are more like conversations. So relax your body language and make it fun. If the interviewer is your age, imagine the recruiter is a distant cousin. I like to tell people, or if the interviewer is older, imagine that the recruiter is like an aunt or an uncle. Typically that really helps me kind of relax my body language if I think of them as people who I might be related to, and I can kind of relate to them better. So relax your body language and make it more of a conversation. This is one of my favorite tips that I give people. If you can make your interviewer smile, smirk, or laugh, you're probably going to get the job. And I love this one because it's something you can literally see in the interview that is a success principle that should make you very happy and confident. This means that it's really a good idea to not only come prepared to talk seriously about your experience, you obviously need to give them the X, Y, and Z of why you're qualified, but if you have a charming, harmless, funny story or two, include these in your interview repertoire. So I'm not talking about, bashing previous bosses or, saying anything negative or laughing at someone else's expense. It should be these should be funny story, maybe a tiny funny story about how when you were first starting off, you made a little mistake and it was kind of funny, and how you learned from that. Self-deprecating humor is always the best. Just don't go too far with it, but just like a little story or two that can make them smile or laugh is always a good idea. And on top of that, we're looking inside the mind of a recruiter. The recruiter wants to hire somebody who's not only qualified, but who is cool, someone who is likable, and who will fit into the company culture. So if you can make the interviewer laugh, that means that you're likable and you're fun, and that means that they're more likely to hire you. And one more thing about number 4. I used to think you had to go into interviews and be super robotic and straightforward and just get to the facts. Once you realize that it's all about people and connection and an emotional connection, that should really make you relieved that you can be yourself. And especially if you're somebody who is known for making people laugh, use that to your advantage. Just don't go overboard with it. Number 5. Do not arrive at the reception desk for the interview more than 15 minutes early. If you arrive more than 15 minutes early, it shows that you're desperate and you have nothing better to do. So you can get to the parking lot early and center yourself and or meditate a little bit, whatever makes you feel good, but make sure you enter the building 15 minutes or less before the interview. Okay? Yes, make sure you bring a few copies of your resume with you in a discreet folder. Maybe it's black or gray, nothing too bright or crazy colors, not a trapper keeper, not a Lisa Frank folder, nothing no weird graphics on it, just a folder. And you can have your resume printed on nice paper, that's fine, it doesn't have to be. But remember, it's got to be one page. You don't need to bring a notebook, and don't take notes during the interview. It's not appropriate. You should be listening to what they're telling you. If it was an informational interview, I instructed you to bring a notebook, but that's different. An informational interview is not a formal interview. Informational interview, you're gathering information. But for a formal interview, do not bring a notebook. Number 7, here's another thing to help you understand if you're doing a good job. And this really helps people. For in-person interviews, if the interview is more than 30 minutes long, you're likely going to get the job. That means typically interviews out here are 30 minutes or less. If you're over 30 minutes, you're doing everything right, and they really like you. For phone interviews, if the interview is more than 20 minutes long, you're doing a good job. And they're likely going to probably call you in for an in-person interview after that. Then, if the recruiter introduces you to other people in the company during your interview, and it's kind of unplanned, this was not a part of your agenda in the original meeting invitation, you're probably going to get the job. This happened to me when I was interviewing at ICM. The recruiter took me to see the head of HR, and I got to meet her as well. So whenever anyone's being, especially the heads of departments or the heads of HR are being brought in to see you, or you're being brought to them, that's a really good sign that you're probably going to get hired and that they really like you. Here's a funny, don't laugh, but if you have problems with sweaty palms, I'm serious, make sure you come prepared with a paper towel or a cloth to wipe your hands with. I've asked other recruiters, what their success principles are. What should I be sharing with my audience? What should I be sharing with my clients? And a recruiter, at first I kind of laughed. I said, that's the advice you want to give? But this recruiter told me, and it makes a lot of sense, that sweaty hands are the biggest turnoff ever for a recruiter. And if you can put yourself in the recruiter's shoes, they're probably shaking hands with hundreds of people a year, which means that's a lot of bacteria and potential germs being spread to and fro. So I completely understand that, a sweaty hand could turn somebody off completely. You might be a great candidate, but if your hand is gross, then the recruiter is not going to want to hire you. So please make sure you have dry hands, and dry hands plus a firm handshake plus a smile is great. That little formula at the end. I thought that you guys would enjoy that. And it's true. Success principle number 9 is important. We've kind of talked about this in previous lectures, but Hollywood assistants and entry-level assistants in general are not really expected to talk very much. You're there to be a worker, you're there to learn, you're there to be a contributor to the company, but you're not there to express your opinion right away. You are there to work. So I want you to be sure that you don't talk for more than 2 minutes at a time whenever the recruiter asks you a question. If you feel yourself blabbering on, you've got to put a lock on it and find a way to wrap up that sentence and move on. If the recruiter starts to look bored or they're kind of turning away, that means you're probably talking for too long and it's time to wrap it up. It's also just polite conversation. You shouldn't be talking for more than 2 minutes at a time anyway. Make sure that your resting face / listening face when you're listening to the interviewer is positive. You should be, smiling slightly. You can nod your head, but not too much, and you should be engaged in what the recruiter is saying. I really don't like it when I'm talking and the person I'm across from has zero expression on their face. It kind of freaks me out. I want to know that you're listening, that you're positive, that you're enjoying what I'm talking about. So make sure your resting face is good and positive. The interview isn't over when you walk out of the door. It's very, very important that you make sure you get the recruiter / interviewer's business card before you leave. You need their email address because the interview is not over until you send the thank you email the following day at 9:30 in the morning. Unless it's a Friday, in which case you send the email the same day, but a few hours after your interview. Why the next day at 9:30? Because that's when people have had their coffee and they're checking emails. And also it should be the following day, because if you send it the same day, you look a little desperate. And a lot of people ask me, well, what about handwritten notes? This is an interesting thing that I know people vacillate on. Because this industry moves so quickly, it's best to do thank you emails the following day that get to the person right away. They're looking to hire people yesterday. That's how fast it moves. So if you need to put a handwritten note in the mailbox and it takes a couple days to get to them, or if you're unable to get back to the office to hand drop it to them, I just find that there's a lot of room for error there. So while I love handwritten thank you notes, for this industry, thank you emails are best. They need to get the information, they need to get the note quickly, email. And then number 12, if the company asks for your references, that means you're likely going to get the job. So that's awesome. And I'm really excited if you're already in this phase right now, because I'm sending all my positive energy to you. I think you're probably going to get the position. So you've got to make sure that you have your reference list of 3 past employers ready to go, and that these people have agreed to be your references and that they're excited to give you a positive referral. So these are the success principles and strategy for your Hollywood interviews, and a look inside the mind of the recruiter. And I will see you again in lecture 2.